Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. Today, we planted some onions, or well, the rest of my onions. I actually tried to make this video yesterday, and somehow lost my audio about halfway through. So, I figured I'd bring you guys along and use a more reliable speaker. I actually finally got a new phone, so now I can actually edit some stuff without, or I'll be able to film without having to use just raw video. So today we're gonna be planting the rest of my Dixondale onions. I got a 50 pack, it's their variety pack, and we're gonna talk about some of the, I guess, nuances to planting onions. Now, I'm no onion guru or anything. I've grown about one good crop of onions. I consider it good. They're not like, volleyball size or anything like that. We're good baseball size onions a couple of years ago. It's really all about timing and making sure that you're planting the right varieties. So let's get into that, and we'll talk a little bit. All right, so I've already got this sort of weeded pretty well. A lot of crabgrass out here. I'm gonna use two different fertilizers, just like I did yesterday. I've got Hollytone, this is Espoma, and this is True Organic. I actually like these guys. They've got some fertilizers that have like more specific. I haven't been able to find like Seabird Guano in other brands, but this True Organic actually does have Seabird Guano. I'm not going to be using it with my onions, but let's talk a little bit about the Hollytone first. It's a relatively balanced 434 fertilizer, and it's also got a little bit of sulfur. So sulfur is going to lower my pH. I haven't checked the pH out here, which I really should, considering I have a $200 pH meter that I just haven't used much yet. Mainly because I don't have the calibration fluids. Of course, it comes calibrated, so there's really no reason. Anyway, long story short, I feel like I need to lower my pH just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and use this to get started, and then the blood meal is going to go in as well, and then I'll probably come back in maybe a month and give it a little bit more blood meal. Onions are nitrogen loving. A lot of people seem to think that that onions are root crops, and I can see how that mistake could be made, but they're actually they're modified stems. So they're basically the swollen stem of the plant, and you want lots of leaves. The more leaves, the bigger the onion. Also, let's get into the types of onions and timings of planting. Now I'm down here in Texas, probably just below. Okay, let's just break it down. You have long day onions that can be grown in the northern part of the country. I'll see if I can find a map that I can put on the screen. But your long day onions are going to be in the northern part of the country, because we have to take into consideration the tilt of the earth in proximity to the sun. And then you have the middle of the country, and when I'm talking about the United States, those foreign countries that I'm not familiar with. I'm sorry, I can't really speak to where you would be, what type of onions you would want to be growing. The middle of the country would grow intermediate day onions, and then the southern part of the United States we grow short day onions. So all of my onions are short day onions. I might be able to get a decent bulb with an intermediate day onion. In relation to the northern part of the country, you know, in the summer we might think of days as being really, really long, but they're not in relation. So I think at the summer solstice we're right about, I want to say 14 hours is what we get, and at the winter solstice we're only at 10. So we only have a 4-hour swing. It's because we're closer to the equator. Now you go a little further north and they have a little more of a swing. They probably have, you know, at the winter solstice they probably have closer to maybe 8 or 9 hours, and at the summer solstice they might have 14 or 15, 16 maybe. And then you get up way up north and you have, you know, 16, 17-hour days in the summer, and that's just because of the tilt of the earth. The further north you go, the further you are away from the earth or the sun in the winter, and the closer you are in the summer. So yeah, anyway, let's get this fertilized and raked in. We'll get these guys planted. All right, so I'm not gonna go too crazy here, just a few handfuls and I'll rake it in. Now I've got to be careful about where I select to plant my onions, because they won't be done by the time I need to have my tomatoes and peppers in, and it's gonna cause some problems as far as timing. So maybe, what was that, 3 decent sized handfuls. Now we'll do about the same with this blood meal. This blood meal is really high in nitrogen. Like I said, we want a lot of nitrogen for these because they are nitrogen hogs. They're also quite thirsty. So my plan is to get out here at some point and set up some irrigation, some drip. And I've got some of the things that I need, but I don't have the tape, and I don't really know how I want to configure everything, because I do have some things that need to be cleaned out. These blackberries, oh my god, they've got way out of control. So I'm going a little heavier with the nitrogen than I went yesterday, but you know, blood meal is a pretty slow release. Basically, you can look at fertilizers, if it's not some sort of guano, then it's going to be pretty slow release, and not really very super fast acting. But you know, we're playing the long game here. You know, this is using your irons, not a driver. Let's get this raked in. Figure out which rake I want to use. Alright, so ground's pretty hard still here. This isn't my best part of my plot, part of this plot anyway. Let's give this a little bit more of a roughing up here, because the ground's just very, very stiff. It almost feels frozen. That's how hard it is. Still got some radishes that didn't turn to mush. I'm surprised. We had that big winter storm come through, and it didn't completely wipe out everything.
it did wipe out the stuff that I really wanted to do well. My broccoli and cauliflower or toast. Alright. So I don't need these because, like I said, they're not root vegetables, but they do need to be able to grow roots. I may actually come back in a couple of days and give these a little bit of that seabird guano. That seabird guano is very high in phosphorus, and phosphorus is great for root growth. But it's typically something that you would want to use for a root crop, you know, carrots or beets or something along those lines. Radishes. Wait. Tiny little radish. That is pathetic and quite pithy. So not really something you'd want to eat. Now, I'm a no-till gardener, but I do have to dig from time to time because my soil is very heavy. And this is a part of the garden that I haven't really grown in much. Now, back here has been grown for several years, but this part up here closer to the house, nah. I've got, let's show you guys. I'll show you guys that's pretty heavy clay. I mean, it's not horrible because it does break apart, but it is heavy. And up here, it's white. I mean, or very, very gray. So it doesn't really have the nutrients and the life that it needs to have. So I'm just going through here with this little mini hoe, just giving this little 2-foot part of the bed a little bit of chopping to about 2 inches. This guy, I like this tool. The rest of these onion starts they're pretty danky, I'm not gonna lie. Not super impressed with what I've received, but we'll see how they turn out. This is about average for what's left. There were the ones that I planted back there were a little bit bigger. They were maybe twice as big as this. Also, I wanted to talk to you about sets versus starts. Now, this is a start. A set would be that little dry cipollini style onion that you would grow or that you find in your big box stores. And quite frankly, the dates that most of the old timers will give you around here, they'll tell you that you want to start your onions in right now, literally right now. They use Valentine's Day as the planting date, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I think that's a little bit off as far as sets. I mean, as far as starts, that's more for sets. So, my opinion, and my opinion only, starts can go in quite a bit sooner. So let's talk about that a little bit more here in just a second. So sets are already have already started their bulbing cycle, and then they've been pulled and forced to go dormant. Now that means that these plants are under the impression, or you know, their instinct is that, okay, they've gone through their bulbing cycle, and if you plant them too early, they're going to flower that next spring. Now, onions are quite cold hardy. They'll take down to about 20 degrees, no problem. If you have a bulb that's already started its bulbing cycle and then decides that it's well, you get a freeze or a few freezes, then you're gonna have some problems. Is that if you get them in ground a little bit sooner, say, you know, if I was to start these in December is a pretty warm month for us, but the light hours are still relatively are quite low. We're just now, you know, recovering from the equinox, the solstice. So if you start right after Christmas, then that's when the light hours start climbing again. The warm part of the year. If you wait till February, then, you know, that's the coldest part of the year. You're gonna have the bigger chance for really hard freezes. So in my opinion, I think next year I'm gonna try and get these in ground a lot sooner. I'm probably gonna start my own starts, which I actually intended to do this year, just didn't get around to it. So I'm planting these quite a bit closer than what is recommended, because I actually prefer what we call cebollitas here, which is little onion, and I can take those and throw them on the grill whole, and they are absolutely delicious grilled. So, you know, that's entirely up to you. If you want a bigger onion, fertilize them more, water them more, and give them more space. So maybe 6 to 8 inches between each onion, and you'll get bigger onions. You just understand that the fertility in the water has to be there. I'm planting these about 3 inches. And these are the smaller of what I received from Dixondale. I'm not upset with Dixondale at all. These are a little bit on the smaller side. I'm sure they'll produce exactly what I need, and they'll work out quite well, considering the fact that I prefer smaller onion. And I'm just going through here and just sticking these right in the ground. I've heard that you could just kind of dig you out a little furrow and kind of lay them by the soil, and they would root. Never tried it, but you know, onions aren't something that I grow a lot of. But growing new stuff is always fun. I say no, but this is probably my 3rd or 4th real go at growing onions. First couple of times I tried sets, which, like I said, are the little bulbs that have never done well for me. You kind of need your soil to be a little bit loose the first couple of inches. You don't have to go in and till, which, you know, I've never tilled this garden ever at all. That's something that would take entirely too much effort, and I am quite lazy. Alright, some of these just seem like they're not even worth planting, so I'll get down to the end of this row and we'll be done. I'm not even gonna bother to water these in because we do have some rain coming tomorrow, maybe even later on this evening. But that's a quick planting of onions, no big deal. I think those will do quite well. They'll get plenty of sun here. Kind of hoping that if we do get much rain this summer or this spring, that it's slow rain and not gonna wash out this entire bed. I'm trying to build the soil back from this way forward, closer to the house, because it does slope quite a bit right here, and it's that's been a problem for quite a few years, because I don't know if you can see right here, you got quite a bit of washout where the soil gets really sandy right there. And I actually tried to make a couple of videos in the fall earlier and see if I could, you know, just make some videos. But I sowed some radishes up here, which clearly you can, or we already talked about, but I actually had radishes growing back there because all the seeds were washed out. So it's kind of, see, I'm getting some, let's see if I can show you guys. Right. So anyway, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe. I plan on doing a lot more gardening. Work has been just treacherous, so I'm trying to figure out another way, and quite frankly it's causing some pretty crippling depression. So the more I get out here in the garden, the more that depression kind of melts away, and I hope you guys, you know, if you enjoy watching me garden or learning about some gardening, then yeah, we'll have a good time. So yeah, I appreciate it. Peace. God bless.